What moment in an argument made you realize this person is an idiot and there is no winning scenario? Coworker would constantly preach against GMOs, parabens, only use oils when sick, etc. She told me I was going to get cancer from my deodorant and the corn I bought was mutant. Then she'd go outside and smoke 3 cigarettes every 2 hours. An old roommate of mine was trying to say we were blackmailing her when we were asking her to take out her trash, etc. She said, watch the Lizzie McGuire movie, there's blackmail in there, and it's obvious that's what you're doing to me. I believe it goes without saying that she never cleaned up after herself, nor did she understand that movie. When she said I don't have to be rational when discussing how and why laws are made. My cousins are flat earthers. When lack of evidence is just proof of a conspiracy, it's best to just disengage. You can't break into that prison, they have to break out. When a sex manager insisted to me it was impossible for a laptop CPU to hit over 100C because that would melt gold. His tech expert buddy backing him up the whole time. A coworker went on a rant about how all teachers are lazy and only work from 8 to 3 while taking loads of holiday time while doing minimal work. I come from a family of teachers, so I could see the time put in at home, the lost weekends, the days of doing work till 7 p.m., the last 2 weeks of every summer holiday spent in school prepping the classroom for the next year, buying materials out of their own pocket because the school budget wouldn't cover it, my coworker's response are, well, I'm a parent so I know more about it than you do. I nearly flipped my fucking lid. A guy said to me, anecdotal evidence is all I need because it describes my truth, and my truth is reality. Bruh. People who say stuff like okay, that's your opinion, but I have my own when discussing about objective facts, like science issues, meaning of words edit. A lot of people seem confused with my wording. I'm adding a couple of examples of what I mean. Science. Water boils at 70 degrees centigrade, that's my opinion words. In my opinion, the Spanish word hola means dog, so basically, facts which are either true or false and not open to opinions. Edit 2 to 3. Spelling. A discussion with someone about the process of getting a license. Obviously they didn't have one and didn't believe that you had to do a 5-hour driving class to get one. The moment came when they tried the whole you can't always believe stuff from the internet, and we're just like A, you jump on pretty much any conspiracy theory you find on the internet, and B, we're on the fucking DMV's website, they seriously still didn't believe it and tried to go the whole you gotta use Google to win arguments route edit because rip inbox. I'm from New York also, to clarify, I'm not saying that you don't need driving practice, you need 50 hours. Every time on Reddit you give an opinion and everyone tells you you're wrong. And I don't mean here are some facts that show your opinion to be a stupid one, but when you say you like to film. They tried to say you're a freshman was correct grammar, rather than you're a freshman. Keep in mind, they are majoring in language and they're a senior. I kept asking my 2-year-old son for help with my calculus homework. This fucker didn't even know how to add. Kept looking at me and yelling jello. That whole please provide proof of every point you've made using sources I approve of thing, when they've shown you made up shit from nonsense sources, and then add the I'll wait. Yeah, do your own homework and you're right, you will wait. Forever. The airlock is that way. When they were claiming all the facts I presented about the Earth being round and older than 10,000 years was fake. A month ago I honestly believed people were just taking the piss when talking about flat earthers, but now I'm scared for our planet's future. I was asked if I could prove that more people die of cancer than fat shaming. Threw my hands up and walked away. When I was arguing with someone about why milk doesn't go in first when making a cup of tea, a very English debate, and his argument was when you add boiling water to cold milk, you're warming it up, but when you add cold milk to boiling water, you're cooling it down, and I don't want cold tea. I tried to explain how the end temperature will be exactly the same regardless, but he was already celebrating his self-awarded victory. This whole thread brings to mind a quote I've always liked. Arguing with stupid people is like playing chess with a pigeon. Eventually the bird with just shit on the board, knock over all the pieces, and strut around like it's won. When I was told he was voting for Brexit because the EU invaded the Falklands. My best friend knows I'm headed into the military and he keeps saying have fun in the army. I tell him I'm enlisted to the Navy. I know, is the Navy part of the Army? We had a back and forth argument that the Navy is part of the military and Army is a separate branch, but he insists that the word Army and military have the same meaning. You shouldn't tip because waiters are too dumb and uneducated to know what to do with all that money. I overheard an argument between a man and his wife. He was adamant he was right about something, I forget the specifics, and she countered with an actual fact that proved him wrong that even he had to admit was correct. His response was to dismiss her with the phrase that wasn't the point I was trying to make. It was as if a man were saying, there has never been a black president, and the wife replies, what about Obama? And he comes back with, that was not the point I was trying to make. It was as if a man were saying, there has never been a mixed race president, and the wife replies, what about Obama? And he comes back with, that was not the point I was trying to make. Such a person is incapable of admitting they were wrong. Edit. People got a bit silly about Obama, claiming he wasn't black, etc. When my ex-girlfriend would get drunk and bring up something I had no idea was an issue, me not being emotional enough, spending too much time playing video games, etc., I quickly realized she didn't want to actually discuss or hear what I had to say, she just wanted to freak out and tell me how bad of a person I was. Anytime someone tells me to prove something doesn't exist, that second-hand smoke doesn't affect me. When they think their feelings are as much proof as my facts. The concept of free will is an illusion that the Jews that run the internet and the world have created. How do you know? That sounds a bit fishy, man. I read about it online. I have found the truth. Can you send me those links? No, you have to find the truth yourself. It also did not help to point out that the Jews that apparently ran the internet must have known their secret was out on their internet. I'm not sure what the exact issue was, but the guy asked me about whether or not I knew why something was done in the way it was done. Like, what the reasoning for the method was. And I knew the answer. He presented me his own answer, which relied on certain things that were not very accurate, and you could tell that he worked on that theory a while, and this must have been the reason. I debunked it very quickly and gave him the actual reasoning. You could see that he understood it, but didn't want to throw his well-crafted theory away like trash. So he tried to argue his theory in the actual reasoning somehow. It got really weird. Finally, I looked it up on my phone, and he still thought that his theory must also have played a role, which was just wrong. I had a similar situation just yesterday with the same person. Was about basically how weather moves, as he has no scientific background whatsoever, which he said, and which was the reason he asked for an answer. I wasn't that sure, but I did my best in providing a physically accurate answer based on the data we had. He started arguing about it and brought on his own theory again. This time it wasn't crafted over years of thinking about it but on the spot. Again, he stated himself that he has no idea. How can you argue about something if you say and know you don't know anything about it? We had a new assistant at work who was not fitting in with the team. I sat her down and talked to her about expectations and reviewed the responsibilities of the position several times. In one last effort to help her, I thought I'd see which parts of the job she liked. I asked her, what skill do you think is your strongest skill? And she said, delegating. When she kept trying to change the subject, every time she realized she was wrong. I stayed with verifiable facts. She went all over the map, bringing up shit I did like 5 years ago. You can't turn right at this red light. The sign says so right there. Well, you burnt that craft dinner that one time. You didn't read those instructions, did you? Who the hell burns craft dinner? You can't turn right at this red light. The sign says so right there. A friend of mine said in an argument that only mentally weak people suffer from mental health problems. This literally happened yesterday, so is still fresh in my mind. A streamer said that she would rather have a competitive even match that she eventually loses than an easy win where there was no competition at all. I agreed and added on, admittedly rather rudely, that people who have the thought process that wins are all that matters were just people with no self-confidence who need to win so they can feel like they're good at something, which is unhealthy, and those sorts of people should reevaluate why they play games in the first place. One guy had the argument that winning is always fun, even if it's super easy, and I said that you would get bored of the game very quickly if you easily won every single game, and even if you didn't, you should just play versus bots on the easiest difficulty. They then said playing versus bots isn't fun, and when I asked why, they said, because it's too easy. So you do care about a challenge? No, I still just want to win, And nothing else matters, okay, so why is it not as fun playing versus bots? Because I like beating other players, so you like feeling better than other people? No, it's so you can play versus better players, and why would you want to play versus better players? Here is where I was thinking, okay, he's backed into a corner, so he has to either say, because even competitive matches are more fun, or to make me feel better about myself. And he just said, so I can beat them. It was the point where I realized that this guy either realized the flaw in his argument and doubled down because he didn't want to admit it, or was just so fucking stupid that it was like the SpongeBob Patrick meme where he was doing mental gymnastics in order to defend his own point. He also said I was a jackass for trolling in competitive games, and I said that no, I always play seriously to win in ranked modes, but winning is a bonus, the game itself is the fun part. TLDR. If you play competitive games but don't enjoy the actual game and you're not getting paid to play it, then look at why you play it. It might be better to play something else. When the last 3 points they made were the same thing rephrased, I called them out on it, but they gave me detention. I hated my maths teacher. Talking about the top generals in the Brazilian army during the Paraguayan War, very specific, I know. Him. It's good to not whitewash history. Me. Well, they were white. Him. Well, it depends who you ask. No, it does not. When I was told don't believe everything you see on the internet after linking multiple reputable news articles, a video of it being discussed in Congress and official reports about the concentration camps in America, the ignorance completely dumbfounded me. When you prove someone wrong and even tell them why, and they still act like they're right. Starting to quote the Bible or referring to any religious book. Someone who is dating my roommate considers herself to be environmentally conscious. She claimed that napkins were bad for the environment and they increase one's carbon footprint. She ranted about it to me in my own home, even though I don't even buy napkins. Maybe a week or so later, she noticed I use a reusable coffee filter and berated me for not using disposable paper filters. I told her that using a reusable filter cuts down on the amount of waste that we produce when brewing coffee, so not only do I not contribute to filling up landfills with paper filters, but I also save money from not buying them in the first place and just cleaning the plastic one. She told me that since paper filters are biodegradable, there is no reason for me to refrain from using them. But napkins are made of paper. Napkins are made of paper. She literally just wanted to stand on a soapbox and hear herself talk. She derives pleasure from telling others that they are wrong, regardless of whether or not they are actually wrong. There is no winning an argument with her. I fix guns. Guy has a problem with his gun. Says he can't hit broadside of a barn and showed it to another guy, and so he thinks he has a problem. Okay, check it out for mechanical problems, no issues. Next, go out and shoot it, groups about a fist-sized group at 10 yards. Not amazing, but standard combat group. Show him the evidence, starts talking about how he never said anything about accuracy. Guy is full of it. No matter how many times I explained how guns work and how I showed him his is fine, he wouldn't believe because some guy told him it isn't. Go through a long thing about what he would consider good and acceptable. That if it shot well, functioned properly, but had this rattle noise, would it be acceptable? Nope. It could jam every other shot, and as long as it didn't rattle a little he would be happier. Ended up being a win-win situation. After a week of constant arguing and telling my now ex-boyfriend and telling him in no uncertain terms that we are over. He came to me one morning and said, well, if you don't want to work on this, I don't think we should be together anymore. I just agreed. When my SIL told me that liberals in power, last administration, were using cell towers to burn the soles of the feet of registered Republican voters. Like cell towers were some sort of sci-fi weaponry that could tap into the voting database and then laser target individuals. When I told her this was science fiction, she insisted it had happened to her. Or same SIL tried to convince me that during his first term in office, Obama had visited a hospital where a series of late-term abortions had failed, in that the babies were born alive. She said that doctors had put the babies into a supply closet to wait for them to die, and that Obama had stood guard at the door. Just, what do you say to that? Sometimes the idiocy is so strong that you just have to not bother making an effort as an act of self-preservation. Oh my god, flat earthers. If they're right about it, whatever, but for some reason everything else they believe is completely whack. They'll believe damn near anything conspiracy-wise. If I get into a conversation about how the moon is pretty tonight, they'll say something about how the moon landing is fake, and then it always spirals into 9/11s, and the earth is flat. I definitely stop talking to them after that. If you're nice, cool, but they're generally also ridiculously bent on you agreeing with them, which I can't stand. They won't agree to disagree and constantly talk about it. So no, I'll pass on flat earthers, thanks. They responded to a bunch of facts by saying fake news. When anytime you try to respond, they just cut you off and continue their rant. When he slammed the door shut in my face and the door had a mirror on it.